Welcome back. We are diving deep today into something that, well, it sounds simple, just a can of grease, right? But it's actually mission critical for global operations. We're talking about L666 liquid wrenchy white lithium grease.
That's exactly right. We've got a pretty substantial stack of sources here, all focused on this one industrial essential. It's engineered by RSC Chemical Solutions. And look, if you're listening, maybe you're in procurement, safety, or you're managing uptime in tough sectors like oil and gas, utilities, heavy manufacturing, this deep dive, it's really your shortcut to understanding why this specific lubricant choice can make or break asset reliability.
Yeah, and our mission today is pretty straightforward. We need to get past the marketing slogans and really analyze the technical specs, the logistics, basically what makes L666 this linchpin for keeping things running smoothly. We're not just asking what it is. We really want to dig into why this particular formula is the go-to when, let's be honest, a failure could cost you, what, hundreds of thousands?
Easily. And the central finding, really, across all these materials is that lubrication in these big operations, it's fundamentally a capital protection strategy. It's not just another expense you try to minimize. I mean, picking the cheapest grease often guarantees you the highest cost later in emergency repairs. We really need to look at the chemistry here, the stuff that prevents that bad outcome.
Okay, let's unpack that then. Let's start by setting the stakes. Equipment goes down, a huge pump in the field, a main conveyor belt. The immediate cost is, well, it's staggering. The sources keep calling it a six-figure event. So what exactly, at the chemical level, is L666 designed to protect against?
Fundamentally, it's engineered to be a kind of molecular fortress. Most high-performance greases rely on a thickener base. L666 uses a high-quality lithium soap. Now, that isn't just a generic thickener. It's absolutely crucial for a property called shear stability.
Shear stability. Okay, what does that actually mean, out there in the real world where things are running constantly?
It means it resists mechanical breakdown. Think about massive gears, bearings under immense load. They're constantly churning, right? The grease itself is subjected to just tremendous shear force. It's basically being cut and crushed over and over. Now, a lubricant with poor shear stability, it'll thin out fast. It loses that protective film, and then you get metal grinding on metal, galling, seizure, disaster. The L666 formulation is specifically built to resist that kind of mechanical abuse for much, much longer. It delivers sustained metal-to-metal protection, even under serious duress.
Right. So this is where the ROI really starts to become tangible, isn't it? You're saying this specific chemistry translates directly into pushing back expensive bearing replacements, maybe by months. Or even years.
Precisely, yeah, potentially years. We're essentially talking about turning preventative maintenance schedules into long-term savings.
Yeah.
And the sources really emphasize L666's resilience against three major enemies of industrial machines. Let's tackle the first one, water.
Water, okay, yeah, that's everywhere. Utility substations, wash-down processes in manufacturing, definitely in oil and gas field ops. So what happens when, a standard grease gets wet?
Well, standard greases tend to emulsify. They basically absorb the water, turn into this kind of useless paste that either just washes out or, even worse, it sits there and starts corroding the internal parts. The L666 formula, though, it's known for being hydrophobic. It actively rejects water. It forms this really stubborn film that just won't easily wash out, even if you hit it with high-pressure spray. That's critical for anything exposed to weather or, say, steam cleaning. It basically eliminates one of the main causes of unexpected bearing failure right there.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense for equipment out in the elements. But, heavy industry also means brutal internal forces. Let's talk about that second enemy, extreme pressure and just relentless mechanical stress.
Right, and this is where specialized additives really come into play. L666 contains what we call extreme pressure, or EP additives. Think of them as sacrificial layers. Under normal running conditions, the thick lithium film does the heavy lifting. But when the pressure suddenly spikes to potentially catastrophic levels, imagine a massive crane's articulation point moving a really heavy load, these EP additives kick in. They chemically react with the metal surfaces to prevent those two surfaces from actually welding together under that intense load.
Wow. Okay, so it's not just stopping squeaks and noise. It's literally preventing catastrophic structural failure when things are under maximum load.
Exactly that. It stops pitting, it stops cold welding, things that can instantly lead to a full operational shutdown. Yeah, serious stuff.
And then there's the third enemy, one that I know operations directors in really harsh climates battle constantly. Huge temperature swings, from scorching desert heat to freezing Arctic cold.
Yeah, and that requires real formulation stability, high-performance stuff. L666 has an excellent high dropping point. Now, the dropping point, that's the temperature where the grease basically gives up, transitions from semi-solid to liquid, and stops working. This product keeps its structure even under intense operational heat. It resists thermal breakdown and also spin-off, where the heat and centrifugal force literally fling the lubricant away from the parts that need it most.
Okay, and the flip side, what about when it gets really, really cold? Because if the grease thickens up too much in winter, the equipment might not even start, right?
Right. And the material shows it keeps excellent pumpability, stays functional down to really low temperatures. It prevents that cold-induced thickening that can seize up fittings, compromise seals, and dramatically increase the torque needed just to get things moving, which of course strains motors and jacks up energy costs. This kind of all-weather capability. That's often the deciding factor for, say, fleets that operate across the country in all sorts of climates.
That really lays the groundwork for L666's technical strength. So now let's pivot a bit. How does all this capability translate into versatility across different applications? I mean, this stuff seems to cover a huge spectrum, from a simple hinge pin to a massive industrial conveyor bearing.
Adaptability is definitely key, and it's a huge plus because it lets organizations consolidate their lubricant inventory. That reduces complexity, reduces the chance of someone grabbing the wrong product. It's a big deal. The technical strengths we just covered, that high shear stability, the EP protection, that means it can handle the really tough environments.
Can you give us some examples, like high-stakes situations where using a consolidated product like this is almost a must-have?
Oh, sure. We see it specified all the time for really high demand areas. Think oil and gas pumps and valves, especially out in remote fields where getting a maintenance crew out is expensive and infrequent. Then you've got heavy manufacturing, big bulk conveyors, stackers, articulated joints on robots, stuff that sees continuous, really heavy cyclical stress. And crucially, utility mechanicals, things like substation locks, gates, exposed switches, places where you absolutely need guaranteed function no matter what the weather's doing.
And it's interesting, beyond those really heavy industrial uses, the sources also mention its usefulness in just, everyday fleet maintenance, loaders, transport rigs, even simple automotive latches and cables. Having one product cover dozens of uses must be a huge logistical win.
It absolutely is. And that leads us neatly into another key feature, one that's highlighted specifically for the maintenance crews doing the work, this idea of clean application.
Right. L666 is white lithium grease. Why is that specific visual aspect, the color, actually important? I mean, compared to traditional dark or sort of translucent greases, does the color itself do anything for performance?
It does, absolutely. That white color, which usually comes from a pigment like titanium dioxide, isn't just cosmetic, it's actually functional.
Yeah.
It works like a visible tracer. When you apply the grease, you get immediate visible feedback on coverage. Quality control, right there. The material really emphasizes that this white color helps guarantee you've got full coverage.
But, every brand claims easy application. If you're, say, a safety officer overseeing work on a complex machine, what's the real risk if the lubricant is just, I don't know, clearish or dark like old motor oil?
The risk is insufficient coverage, and that's like an invisible killer for machinery. If a crew member misses a critical Zerk fitting, maybe it's tucked away somewhere awkward and they're using a translucent lubricant, they won't know they missed it. Not until that part fails, potentially catastrophically. The white color just eliminates that guesswork. You can do quick visual inspection and instantly confirm, yep, the lubricant film is there, it looks good. It simplifies quality checks during inspections, saves a ton of crew time, and drastically cuts the chance of that six-figure problem popping up because somebody missed a spot.
That clarity, that visual proof.
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems like a massive selling point just for ensuring procedures are actually followed. Let's touch on another critical technical point that seems to set L666 apart. Multi-metal compatibility.
Yes, this is a really big area where, frankly, cheaper greases often fall short and can lead to significant damage over the long term. L666 is specifically formulated to be inert meaning, non-reactive, and safe across a whole range of common industrial metals: steel, aluminum, brass, bronze, even certain types of polymers.
So what happens if, say, an operations director, maybe through error, uses an incompatible grease? Maybe one with some harsh chemical additives on, I don't know, a galvanized part or a brass fitting. What's the immediate risk there?
Well, you risk things like galvanic corrosion or direct chemical degradation. Certain greases that aren't compatible can actually start to pit or stain softer metals over time. That compromises the integrity of seals, bushings, or specific alloy components. For example, using a grease with certain fillers on aluminum can actually accelerate oxidation. The L666 formulation is designed to prevent all that. It ensures the lubricant itself doesn't become the agent of destruction. It helps maintain safety compliance and protects that big capital investment tied up in multi-metal assemblies.
Okay, so if we were to sort of summarize the technical comparison here, the superiority of L666 isn't just down to one single factor. It sounds like it's the combination, the synergy between that high shear stability, the water resistance, the EP additives for pressure, and that clean, visible conformation from the white tracer.
That's exactly it. It's the total package, really engineered to solve those real-world operational headaches. It aims to prevent premature wear and corrosion far better than formulations that might compromise on, say, water resistance to improve heat stability or vice versa. It really reinforces that idea we talked about earlier. Buy smart, focus on performance, not just the initial price tag.
Right. Okay, let's shift gears a bit then, more to the strategic level. Assuming the performance is solid, the next big challenge, especially for procurement managers, is logistics, getting the stuff. What do the source materials tell us about actually acquiring this product, particularly through partners like PEnergy.com? Because let's face it, technical brilliance doesn't mean much if you can't actually get your hands on it when you need it.
Exactly right. For anyone using this in high volume, the focus absolutely shifts to having a reliable supply chain. The materials really stress this idea of B2B peace of mind. And that boils down to two core promises. First, competitive bulk pricing, with pretty significant savings if you buy in volume, and second, crucially, short lead times.
Short lead times. That's key for avoiding operational bottlenecks, isn't it? How do they actually ensure that reliability for, say, an operations director who simply cannot afford to wait weeks for essential consumables?
Well, the strategy seems built around efficient warehousing and having dedicated industrial support. The promise is basically fast, reliable shipping. The goal is to minimize the inventory holding costs for the client while maximizing the product's availability. I mean, if you're running a 24/7 operation running out of mission-critical grease, that's not an option.
And what about the support aspect? Procurement teams are always looking to streamline their vendor lists, simplify things.
Yeah, and the partner model here offers expert industrial support. It's designed specifically to help organizations forecast their needs better and also to consolidate their lubricant requirements. So instead of juggling 5 different vendors for various specialized greases, L666's versatility allows for significant consolidation. That eliminates the headache of tracking multiple POs, ensures product standardization across maybe different plants or facility locations. It simplifies things quite a bit.
That logistical support piece sounds almost as important as the product itself in some ways. The materials even mention how the actual physical packaging is optimized for industrial settings.
Yeah, it seems designed for efficiency right down to the warehouse level. The product comes in those practical 16-ounce canister size for quick deployment, easy for maintenance crews to handle. But more strategically, the case configurations themselves are optimized for pallet stacking density and warehouse slotting efficiency. It's about minimizing clutter and maximizing the use of every square foot of valuable industrial shelf space. Little things that add up.
So wrapping this section up, what does this all really mean? We've seen how L666 white lithium grease is positioned as, well, a pretty strategic choice. It balances those rigorous technical specs we discussed with some really critical logistical advantages. The decision isn't just about the can of grease itself, is it? It's more about choosing an entire end-to-end solution that guarantees asset reliability, all the way from the chemical formulation to getting it onto the shelf reliably.
And knowledge, as they say, is most valuable when it's actually understood and applied. The message distilled from all this material seems exceptionally clear. When the difference between a high-quality, reliable lubricant like this and maybe a questionable, cheaper alternative, when that difference could potentially mean hundreds of thousands of dollars in downtime and repair costs, well, the initial unit price difference becomes almost irrelevant, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The imperative is to buy smart, focus on lifetime performance, and that logistical certainty we talked about.
We've certainly done the deep dive on the material here. Now, as always, we want to leave you, our listener, with one final thought to maybe chew on, explore on your own after this.
Yeah, here it is. If the lifespan, the continuous efficiency of assets worth potentially millions of dollars hinges entirely on the guaranteed performance of a consumable lubricant, how much of your total operational budget should be strategically dedicated to guaranteeing the quality and reliability of these, seemingly small but ultimately mission-critical materials? And maybe just as importantly, what metrics are you actually using right now to quantify the real cost of not buying the best available option?